Hello, George. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Hello. I hear some activity in the background. Hello, can anyone hear me?
Hello?
Hello. With whom am I speaking? Is this Mr. Ross?
This is Mr. Drummond.
Hi, Mr. Drummond. How are you this morning?
Hanging in there. It's actually the afternoon.
Okay, well, that's right. It's 12:03 now. So yes, it's technically afternoon. I've been teaching this morning. And so I want to give it about 5 more minutes before I go ahead and go over the way that I've restructured the course so that I can be sharing with as many participants as possible. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen in lieu of just the image you see of me right now. And I'm going to wait on some other students to join us.
Gotcha.
Are you guys able to see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right. So, let's see who I have. I've got 3 more who have joined. All right. So what I want to do is I want to show you guys the way that I've structured your course. And so what I'd like to ask you guys to do is to enable your audio so that if you have any questions, you can ask me your questions. I would, though, like you to wait until after I've explained how I've structured your course. And then I'll be happy to answer any questions that you guys might have. So what we've tried to do for the College of Business is come up with a uniform design. That's ideal. I haven't gone in and checked every instructor's course structure, but what we've done is we've tried to have your weekly schedule of assignments tab, student resources tab, the assignment Dropboxes tab, a discussions board tab. Let me enter student preview so you can see what it looks like for you. And a Zoom meeting room tab, an exam test quizzes tab, and a student grade center. So for your weekly schedule of assignments, when you click on this tab, then what you'll see literally is what you need to do for each week. It's going to tell you the topics that we're going to cover, the readings that you've got to conduct, and then the assignments that you've got to complete on that right column. When you click on the folder for week 10, you're going to have two subfolders. It's going to have your course readings, PowerPoints, and or videos, where you'll need to find, or where you'll be able to find all the readings that you've got to do for each week. And then you'll also have an assignments tab, where I've given you a direct link to the assignments that you need to complete. So it's going to take you either to the assignment Dropbox, where you've got to upload something, or to Cengage Mind tab, where you've got to complete the assignments that you need. I've maintained the structure that we've always had as well, so that you don't have to rethink anything if you're just used to going to the syllabus and figuring out what you need to do. So your syllabus is still there. Your e-textbook link is still here. Your feasibility plan resources are still here. But your assignment Dropboxes tab is now up here. So you've got two places now where you'll be able to access links to where you can submit your assignment. You've got here on this week, under this weekly schedule of assignments, where you'll be able to access the assignment links for each week. And then you've got this assignment Dropboxes tab, the same one that we've had all year, where everything is listed in chronological order, and it tells you everything that you need to complete. If you notice that on your syllabus and your weekly schedule of assignments, it tells you that you got to complete some assignments, and then you don't, for that specific week, see the links that you need, then just go to the assignment Dropboxes folder, and then all the links will be there. I've made sure, or attempted to make sure, that all of the links are there, just in case I missed one, just so that you can always access all of your assignments by going to the assignment Dropboxes tab. Now, in addition to you going to the specific link for each week that you'll find here. Does anyone have any questions for me about your weekly schedule of assignments tab? Hello? Can you guys hear me?
No, no questions.
All right, no questions. All right. Now
I'm
I'm just going to go over what we've got to do for this week. So there are really 2 weeks of work that you've got to complete if you essentially took a break from your schoolwork last week to take care of essential needs. And so you got to do the week 10 work, which was the week of 3/16, and you got to do the week 11 work. So I've moved the due date for your rough draft, which was originally due, I guess, on yesterday. I moved it to the 29th. And remember, everyone in this course should have been working on the rough draft, because essentially, when you complete the sections of the feasibility workbook, then you're working on your rough draft. In addition to you submitting, well, not in addition, but just you need to be thinking about your business model summary, which is something that you've got to submit at the end of the semester when you submit your final feasibility workbook. In addition to completing this workbook, you've got to complete that feasibility study business model summary, where you summarize what the major activities are for your company and what your business model is. So for this week, you got to read chapter 12. And then what you got to do is you got to complete all the Mind Tap assignments related to chapter 12. And then you got a web destination assignment that you've got to complete. In addition, you're going to need to submit your rough draft. Your rough draft, though, is not due until March the 29th, which is Sunday. And so that's what you got to do for this week. Does anyone have any questions about what's due this week?
Nope.
Your student resources tab. Your student resources tab is just a place where we put all of the resources and guides that you'll need to get you through the course. So you've got about this course, so you've got access to my cell phone and other information about the course. You've got another link to your syllabus. The link that's always been there is still there. And then you got another link to your e-textbook. The other link is also still there. Also linked to all of your Mind Tap assignments are still available under assignment Dropboxes. And then they're also now available in the weekly schedule of assignments in that assignment subfolder for each week. Your discussions board is the same discussions link that's always been there. And then you've only got one discussion assignment that you have for the whole semester. So that's not changed. It's just been relocated to the main tab for the course. You have the Zoom meeting room link where you can log in each week to the meetings that we're going to have. And then you've got this exams, tests, and quizzes link where you're just going to have links to your midterm and your final assessment. Some of you have not yet taken your midterm, and so I want to encourage those who've not done that to go ahead and take it. You will not get a 0 on it. I will give you a late penalty for submitting the midterm because it was due prior to this temporary disruption that we're having. But that's much better than you getting a 0 on the midterm since it's worth a significant portion of your grade. So make sure that you complete the midterm. But again, you've got links to your midterm and your final assessment here. And you also still have them where they were originally. You can find them here where they were. And then you've got the Student Grade Center link. I've just moved that up so that you guys can all readily click on this and then see whatever your grades are. So when you click on Student Grade Center, it should give you the grades that are for you. And then that's something that you can readily access. You also can use this to find out what you got missing. Does anyone have any questions for me about what I've just gone over, the structure of the course, and then what you got to do for this week? Okay. Now, does anyone have any other questions for me about your feasibility study? Because what I'd like to do, I want to make sure that you guys are still with me. You still here? Start calling you guys by name so I can get 4 participants. So I've got Maggie, I've got, let me unmute Maggie. Maggie, have you muted your audio purposefully, or are you unable to share it? I see that you sent me some communication in the chat. I'll check that. All right. But Mr. Ross and Mr. Drummond, you guys are both here, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Now, do you guys have any questions about your feasibility study? Because what I do want to do is to give you guys some guidance on your feasibility study if you need it. The sections that are coming up for your feasibility study now are a little bit more in depth than some of your previous sections. I'm going to pull this up. Okay. And the first sections were simple. You know, you're going to tell me, you know, what your personal objectives are. You're going to do a management checklist. Even when you had to do this personal financial statement, that was pretty straightforward. It was easy. It's what you have, what you know you have access to. Even when you had to describe your product and service, I think that was straightforward. You have to go find a NAICS code. That might have been the most complex thing about that section. Describing your customer is also pretty straightforward, but this is important information because you're going to end up needing to have some sort of estimate on terms of quantity so you can figure out how many units you think you might sell of your product and or service. The description of your competition is also pretty straightforward. Your sales and distribution process explanation is pretty straightforward. But your management requirements are straightforward also. And when you do the narrative portion of your sales forecast, then that's pretty straightforward also. But now what you've got to do is, beginning with step 10, is you've got to complete some spreadsheets. Require you to have done some outside research, some of which you will have done ahead of time because you completed other sections, and some that you'll have to just go and conduct research for. And so one of the first things that you've got to do is you've got to figure out what are your estimated startup costs, and then you've got to decide if I'm going to have a brick and mortar building or location. Am I going to buy this location? Am I going to rent this location? And then you're going to need to do some research on what it's going to cost in order for you to either buy or rent. Then you're going to need to estimate that startup cost information here. I would suggest that you come up with what 1 year of rent will be, and or include whatever your down payment may be for you purchasing the land and or the building. You're going to need to estimate what it's going to cost for you to acquire the furniture and fixtures that you're going to need if you have a brick and mortar location. And even if you don't have a brick and mortar location, but if you're going to need storage, shelving, and cabinets for your inventory storage or for use of your computing technology, then you're going to need to estimate this stuff here. If you're going to have a car that's dedicated to your business, then you're going to need to estimate your expenses for repurposing an existing vehicle or for purchasing a vehicle for your business. You're going to need to estimate any machinery and equipment, et cetera, and et cetera. And then what you're going to do is you're going to estimate what it's going to cost for licensing and fees. It's not free for you to obtain a business license in any municipality or county. So you're going to need to go and do the research for you to find out what the cost is going to be for that. You're going to also need to find out if you're going to, remember earlier on you had to do that management inventory, and you talked about things that you're going to do and things that you're going to outsource. Well, if you're going to need an attorney, if you're going to need an accountant, then you're going to need to estimate their retaining fees or their retainer fees there, or what their fees are going to be for the specific tasks that you intend to allocate to them. There could be some other professional fees that you have, typically in some service-oriented businesses, you're required to have some licensures. I know that's the case for real estate. That's also the case for accounting, etc. You're going to need to estimate what you're going to spend on advertising. Remember earlier on, you came up with some ideas on what you intended to do for marketing. So now you're going to come up with a price for that. And then you've got to print some supplies. You also might have to print marketing materials and any other expenses. So you're going to need to complete this with some thought. It seems like it's simple, and it is, but it requires you to actually do some outside research if you've not already done it in order for you to estimate expenses for this sheet. Remember, you can double click on this, and when you double click, then it actually opens up a spreadsheet in which you'll be able to enter in figures that can be calculated. So I'm just going to put in some fake numbers. I'm going to buy some land at $50,000, and then I am going to put $10,000 down payment on a building. And then you see what's happening is that this spreadsheet already has formulas built into it. As long as you don't delete the formula cell information, which you'll see by the bolded cells down here, then it's going to automatically calculate what your estimated startup costs are for you. Does anyone have any questions about their completion of the estimated startup cost section of the feasibility study? Say no if you don't have any questions about it. Hello, Mr. Ross, Mr. Drummond?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any questions about that?
No, ma'am.
All right. Now, there's some other sections that you're going to need to complete in your feasibility study that are going to also require some additional research and some additional thought. You've got to come up with this 12-month operating budget. And remember, let me just clarify, Mr. Ross or Mr. Drummond, can you see my screen still?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So this is a little mini description of what you need to do. It's telling you, okay, you've got this 12-month calendar. Then what you're going to do is you're going to project the units that are going to be sold by month times the sales price. Remember, you're making up this sales price based on what you know your input components are going to cost you for each unit, or what the time and labor is going to cost you for each service hour that's delivered, right? So then what you're going to do is you're going to come up with a sum of each month's total sales. And then, you deduct any estimated returns if you estimate that there could be some. I want to show you what this looks like here. And I don't want you to get overwhelmed by seeing the 12 months that you see. Because the main thing for you to do is to really think about what the products are that I intend to sell, or the services. What are the services that I intend to sell or offer? So Mr. Ross, or Mr. Drummond, tell me what your company is so that we can use your company as an example for this spreadsheet.
I made a real estate company.
Oh, wow. Okay, good. So I didn't know that. So with real estate, you're going to sell houses. Are you going to sell real estate, or are you going to be a property management realtor or a real estate agent?
I'm gonna sell real estate.
Okay. All right. So then what you're going to do, you got a simple one. And so I'm going to probably get someone else to come up with something. But instead of it saying category 1, unit sold, and you could just say houses. Now here's one thing that you can do. You can just say houses sold here. Or you could also separate it. I used to own a real estate company, so you could separate it into listed houses sold. Then you can do buyer rep houses. The reason I'm telling you that is because you can have listings where you'll actually market a property that people already own and that they intend to sell and put on the market. You'll market on the MLS for them, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then you also have buyer representation, people who are either buying their first house, or people who are relocating from another market where they've already sold something, or maybe some people who just didn't want their listing agent to be their buyer's representative.
Okay.
If you separate them this way, then that way you can estimate in January about how many listings you think that you're going to have, and then you're going to estimate your sales price per unit. So I know that the average sales price for a house in the Hampton Roads market, which is where I was, might be about 175,000. So I would say in January, which is a slow month, and if you are probably a moderately successful agent during this time of year, I would give you maybe about 3 listings.
Okay.
And then we'll do 175,000. All right, now here's what we're gonna do. We can enter a formula in here, because obviously I'm going to multiply 175,000 times 3%. Now, I don't know what type of listing, what type of real estate company you're working for. I don't know if it's a full price listing agency where you probably only get 50% of what the total listing fee or sales fee ends up being. Or if you've got one of those real estate agencies where you've got a higher split. And you keep most of your money, or maybe you keep all of your money, you just pay a monthly fee. I'm not sure. But for the purposes of this example, I'm just going to estimate you working for a traditional company where if you sell a house that's 175,000, then the company gets 3%. And then if you're a newer agent, which I would assume you are because you're younger, then you'll get half of that. So 3% might be what the company gets. You in real life are not going to get 3%. You're going to get half of 3%. Do you understand that? Do you understand what I just did?
Yeah.
All right. So, whoops, I got to put it equals here. There are a lot of things that you can do in this. These formulas that you're creating won't affect the formulas that are already there. It's just really important for all of you guys that are watching this is that you do not enter any formulas or delete anything in the bolded categories, because if you do, then it won't calculate automatically what your projected sales revenue is, okay? Now, you know that January, February, March are pretty much slow months. So, you know, if you go back and think, you just say, I'm new, I might really only have 1 listing. So this is what I'll end up generating. And so sales price per unit, you know, if I have 1 unit, it's this. If I have 3 units, it's this. It's going to automatically change. If you think that January, February, and March are going to be about the same, then you can actually, excuse me, you don't want to copy the category, but you can copy the first two cells and you can just paste it there.
Okay.
March might get a little bit better, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then you can go all the way down here to December and November, really. And you can expect like really your slowest time, okay?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so what you guys are seeing that you're able to do here is once you figure out what the categories are of the products that you intend to sell, then what you're going to do is you're going to estimate how many of those you think you're going to sell each month. You're going to come up with an average sales price based on, let's just say you sell two $500,000 houses and or let's just say two $250,000 houses and one that's 100,000. Anyway, you'll come up with your average. If you've got a widget that you're selling, let's just say you're selling food. So you might have food prices on your menu that range from $4 to $20 for a meal. Your average sales price for something might be about $10 for a particular category of food. So then what you're going to do is you're going to change your sales price per unit here. So if you've got a restaurant, you can change this to chicken meals. Seriously, you think you might sell 100 of those in January, $10. You guys get this picture. You guys are able to pretty readily figure out what you're going to what you can generate in terms of revenue for an entire year. If you want to be really simple, if you don't think there's going to be a lot of shift, then you can actually pull this all the way across here and automatically you figured out what your estimated projected sales revenue is for chicken meals for the whole year. And then once you've done this, you could go in and make some modifications. So you could say, okay, I think I'll sell 80 here, 80 here. Summer is my busiest time. I'll do 150. Whatever you know about your business. Do you guys understand this?
Yes.
And you can make adjustments here. It looks complex. It's not complex. All you're going to be doing with these categories here is you're going to come up with what your products and or services are, and then you're going to estimate an average sales price for them. And so earlier on in this document, you guys were tasked with coming up with your product and or services. So we're going to go back to that section. Okay. So in step 4, you're describing your products and or services. So you got in this section here, what specific product services will I offer? So for you, I'm going to offer listing services. I'm going to offer buyer representation. You could say I'm going to offer property management, management, and marketing services. Do you understand what I'm doing here?
Mm-hmm.
Hello? Mr. Ross?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, what you could also do is if you want to just, if you don't want to come up with an average sales price, you could just say listing services, average, then you can do listing services, high end, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you can have an average sales price for your listed houses that are average to moderate end, right? And then for those that are high end, buyer representation, you can do first time home buyer. You can estimate that they won't have as much income or assets. Average sales price will be lower. Buyer representation, high-end homeowner, however you'd like to categorize your products and or services, okay? But these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 categories are going to be the same 5 categories that you would enter when you get to that spreadsheet.
Okay.
Was that helpful to you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. Then after you do this, and see, really, everything you've done is built on this because, I mean, everything that you've done prior to now has really built you up, prepared you to be able to fill in these spreadsheets. Because I didn't go over it, but you have a prepare a sales forecast section that was earlier on. And in that sales forecast section, it asks you to estimate after you've come up with your list of products, how many of those products that you think you would sell, right? And then if you came up with an annual amount, you just divide that by 12 and you just pop all those different numbers in this first row across here. All right, but anyway, we're gonna go to our next spreadsheet and we're gonna talk about what you need to do to complete this one. This is your projected cost of goods sold worksheet. And so with this one, then you're gonna estimate how much it costs you in order for you to make each one of the units that you make or for you to offer your services. So for example, if you have a marketing assistant, if you have, and this is again for your real estate company, if you have a specific fee every time that you got to enter something into the MLS, you know, if you've got, so cost of labor to produce your service or product is what you're going to need to enter those sorts of things into. Cost of raw materials would be where, you know, if you've got to pay a fee for every time you got to access the MLS. Really just depends on what type of company that you're working for, what information that you're going to put in here. But it's very similar to what we did in our previous worksheets, that you're going to think about it for 1 month, and then you're going to be able to pretty much copy and paste that for each month. It's easier for me to utilize an example of a tangible product in this example, and then you can conceptualize what you need to do for your service. But for your cost of merchandise inventory, let's just say, I wonder if I could get Magda. Maggie, can you send me via chat if you're not able to communicate so that we can hear you? Would you be able to send me via chat what business that you have in case you have a product or a service? Okay. So tell us this, so you have a coffee or a bar shop. All right, so that's perfect in order for us to go over an example for what we need to show for tangible product. So give me like your 3 main product categories so that we can fill out this. So I would assume it's like coffee. So coffee beans, so you're gonna sell coffee beans. Is that gonna be your primary product? I'm assuming that that might be maybe a secondary product. So you got coffee beans, you'll sell that. So when you say you're selling coffee beans, all right, so you're gonna have alcohol, and then you're gonna have coffee drinks, I'm assuming, right? And I'm just, you know, you're gonna structure this how it's most appropriate for you, right? So now what you've gotta think is, what is it gonna cost me for me to make each coffee drink? So are you gonna buy maybe pre-made coffee? But it doesn't sound like, it sounds like you're gonna buy coffee beans and brew it yourself. Is that what I hear? All right, so if that's the case, then, all right, so for every ounce or every bag or whatever quantity it comes in of your, okay, so let's do coffee. So then what you do, create a separate category for probably coffee drinks and then for tea drinks, because they typically have different pricing. And then this spreadsheet gives you that flexibility. You've got room for 6 product categories, okay? All right, so tea bags is actually probably easier for me to conceptualize because I don't know how you're gonna produce your coffee, if that makes sense. I don't know if you're gonna brew it if you're going to buy pre-existing, coffee bags, right? That kind of like what you get in a Keurig, even though I know that you wouldn't use a Keurig to do it, but they do sell tea that you can, coffee that you can produce that way. Anyway, we're going to use tea. So we're going to know that you've got to buy some tea bags. And so we're thinking that, and you got to think that, this cost of goods sold worksheet in a lot of ways is tied to your estimated sales revenue. Because if you go back, and we're just going to go back really quickly. Let me move this out of the way. And this. We estimated here about how many units we thought that we were going to sell. That's really important because you're going to need to think about that when you're coming up with your cost of merchandise inventory. So let's just say that we said that we're going to sell 100 tea drinks in the month of January, right? That might be low, but it's just the easy number for us to work with. Well, that means that you are going to need to estimate the inventory cost for your tea bags. Do you understand? So the inventory cost, the raw material cost for your tea bags, the inventory cost for your cups, for your tops. Do you understand that? Let's just say you can make notes in here for yourself, or you can make notes outside, but we're just going to say 100 cups with tops. There are other things that you need to sell a cup of tea, but we're just going to use that for now. All right, so we're estimating that it's going to cost, and you know this, let's just say it's going to cost you about 50 cents a cup with a top, right? So then you're going to do, you can do it offline, or you could do it right here in Excel. Whoops, got to make sure you always put equals in order for it to do the calculation for you. All right, so I'm only going to sell 100. It's going to cost me 50 bucks for me to have enough cups and tops for my tea. All right, so I've got to buy tea bags. This is just a really simple one because I don't know your business model and everything that you're going to do. And this is something that you can really, really, really think out very far, or something that you could just kind of do at a base level to start out with, and then use this feasibility study plan as something that you can expand upon as you work towards actually thinking through your business and launching it later. We're going to say, we're going to put tea bags. Say your tea bags are going to cost you about 10 cents a tea bag, right? I'm just making this up. All right, so then what we're going to do is we're going to say 50 times 0.10. All right, I mean, $5. And so 100 is probably too low, right? You could, if you want to say 1,000, then you could change this to 1,000, whatever. Do you understand? But we're just using 100 for now, just for simplicity's sake. All right, shipping for inventory and raw materials, you could estimate that. Just say, all right, so altogether, it's probably only going to cost me about 30 bucks in total, 20 bucks in total for shipping. I can get all of this once, maybe if I'm not going to have a large purchase, so I might not get free shipping, but it shouldn't cost me too much. The shipping probably won't cost me more than my inventory. It might only be even $15. Those are light items, whatever it's going to cost. And then you've got to estimate what your labor cost is going to be to produce each of your tea bags. And so not tea bags, but your tea drinks. And so because of the type of business that you have, you could probably just estimate what the hourly wages are for one of your non-salaried workers. If you're going to have one or two, you could estimate it for a month. Remember, you're not going to have your salary estimated in here. That's not going to be under your unfixed wages, because your wages are going to be fixed. But what we could do is we could just say, and you can think inside of here, you can say 2 part-time workers 38 hours a week for both, right? 38 hours a week. I'm making this up, right? You don't want them to be full-time. You don't want to pay them full-time benefits. Um, maybe want to give them a chance to work somewhere else, but you need your place staffed all the time. You only want to come in there a couple of hours. We're going to leave them at 38 hours. So 38 hours per week for both. We've got 76 hours. And I know this seems complex, but this is just you thinking. You don't have to do all of this in this spreadsheet. This is just me making up stuff. And so Maggie, you're going to figure out what's appropriate for you. 2 part-time workers, maybe if you're new, you don't have that much. You don't have that much in sales, doesn't take that much. I mean, in Harris Teeter's, Starbucks is run by one person. So 1 part-time worker, 38 hours per week, and then you're going to pay them $10 an hour. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to put, we already know this is going to cost me $380. And so you don't have to repeat this cost of labor to produce the product or service in your other ones. If you guys understand, I'm sorry, 380 is not right, because guess what? This is for the whole month of January, right? So what we're going to do is 38 hours per week, $10 per hour, and then we're going to multiply that 4.3. Are you following me, Maggie? A lot of money. So you might want to work that yourself. So 380 times 4.3, 1634, or you're going to increase your sales. Okay, so obviously, you know, we got to sell some more tea here, right? We're also going to increase our cup tops, right? What did we say? So all of your expenses are obviously going to increase. And obviously your shipping costs are going to go up significantly. All right, so look, it's going to cost you $2,334. Now here's the cool thing about yours is that this labor expense does not repeat. So it will be spread across all of the other cost of goods sold expenses. So if you want to, you can take this, and if you've got 3 or 4 product categories, you can divide it by 4, whatever you'd like to do, or you can just leave it all here and just not put it back here. But what you know now is that, okay, this is what it's going to cost me to make it. When I go back up here and do my sales projections, you see how the sheets are related now, then I've got to figure out how I can sell enough, right, of this category 1. We'll go and call it tea drinks. All right, so we're going to say we're going to sell 1,000 of them. Sales price per unit, let's just say, is going to be $3.50. You don't usually pay that much for tea. If you're not a Starbucks place, you don't want to be too high. All right, so we're looking at $27.50 here. And what I anticipate being able to make per month just selling this stuff. And it cost me $23.34 just for me to make and produce it. There are also some other expenses that you have not yet included that are going to be your fixed expenses, etc. Now here's the deal. If you want to take this and divide it by 4, you can do that, because remember you said you had tea, coffee, and something else. So, you know, what's that? $408. That kind of makes you feel a little bit better, like you've got a little bit more of a buffer here. All right, so it looks like in that category, as long as my other categories are not too expensive, right? Because you're going to have tea, alcohol, coffee beans, and coffee drinks, right? But I think you get it. I don't know what's going on with the mouse right now. I think it's confused. I've got so many things going on. I've got Zoom, but I'm gonna get this written here. So coffee, non-alcoholic. You get this, but you're gonna take this 409. We divided it by 4, right? You can go ahead and just plop that in everywhere. Or you could have just left it up there, but it's just harder for you to estimate, what impact each one of the categories is having on your profitability without you splitting the cost amongst all of your product categories. Does this make sense to you guys? George, are you with us? Yes. What about you, Maggie? Does this make sense to you? All right. Okay. So, George, your idea or your business concept is a little bit different, but you can still structure it the same way. And so you're going to need to, when you think about your raw materials, you're just going to need to think about typically the services that you got to pay for in order for you to be able to have a listing, the documents that you've got to pay for in order for you to have a buyer's representation agreement, etc. Those are going to be like the equivalent of your raw materials. You wouldn't have any shipping for your inventory or what you sell, but you might have like a part-time assistant. I know I did. I had a full-time assistant, but well, I had a full-time assistant, but she was hourly instead of salaried. And so if you are going to estimate costs there for your cost of labor to produce your product or service, you could split up their labor costs and divide it by however many product categories you have, the same way we did for this. But you guys see how these sections of your feasibility study are related and how they all will help you complete all of the subsequent sections. Okay, so now what you got to do is your projected labor expenses. So now what we're looking at is the people who are going to be full-time, namely you, right? I'm sure you're going to pay yourself something, unless you're some sort of investor owner. Typically, you guys are going to be working owners. And so you're going to want to figure out what your salary is. And if you've got another employee, you're going to want to figure that out. And then I've already given you guys what these specific deduction or tax rates, are that you've got to calculate based on whatever you've established for the salary. And then you're able to figure out what these expenses are. You're probably only going to need to fill this out for one person or maybe 2 max. I don't think I need to go over this one. This one is very straightforward. You do need to figure out if you're going to offer health insurance or any workers' compensation or other benefits. And if that's what you intend to do, you're going to need to go and do the research for those things and put those expenses in that sheet. Okay. Now, this projected operating expense worksheet is going to take the things that you came up with from these other 2 spreadsheets, right? So you're going to have your projected labor expense here. You're going to put your total wages there. Let me just make sure I've got this here. So your total labor related expenses you can get directly from this. So your total labor related expenses are going to be calculated here for you. Also, I'm just trying to make sure that I've got your total wages. Yeah, and your total wages are also going to come directly from here. So your total wages When you double click on this, I will at least double click so you can see that there's a place where the total wages, your total labor related expenses for everything are going to be summed up. So it's going to be at the very bottom, the total wages for all employees and your total labor related expenses for all employees are going to be there. And then you're going to take that and then you can plug that in on your operating expense worksheet. But now what you've got to do is you've got to think about some other things. You've got to actually enter in what your monthly expenses are for all of these. What you can do is figure it out for 1 month. And then what you can do is you can copy and paste for the rest of the year, or you can figure out all these other expenses for the year and divide them by 12, and then you can put that information here, whatever you like to do. And the profit and loss statement looks as if it's complex, but it's not, because what you're going to do is you're going to take the projected sales that you came up with for each month and you're going to pop them all here. So literally all you're going to do is copy and paste that row. They're going to take the cost of goods sold that you came up with for the whole year and you're going to copy and paste that here. And it's going to come up with what your gross profit is. You're going to take all your total operating expenses, which you will have just come up with based on what the spreadsheet that we just looked at. And then it's going to come up with what your operating profit is going to be. Then you're going to end up indicating here any other income, other expenses, and maybe any interest expenses, either from property that you own, for which you've got to pay interest, etc. And then you're going to end up with a profit before taxes amount. And then you're going to take this income tax rate that's dependent upon what type of business form that you chose, or different rates depending on if you're a sole proprietorship, LLC, or a corporation. And then it's going to calculate your income taxes for you based on that. And then it's going to come up with your net profit for you. Okay. And so does this make sense for you guys? Those are the most complex sheets that you've got to complete. They're not that complex, but you do have to read the instructions methodically. And then you also have to take the time to really think about in detail each one of your products and really who you're going to hire in order for you to run your business, how much you're going to pay yourself. And if you've thought about all of those things, you should be able to accurately, or at least as close to accurately as possible, come up with an estimate for what your overall profit and loss for your prospective company is going to be. And then what you're going to do is you're going to come up with some ratios. Then all you got to do here is to enter in what your net sales are going to be for your company. You're going to enter in what your gross profit is for your company. You already came up with that. You know, we can just say it's going to be. Whoops! I erased the whole spreadsheet. Double click on the spreadsheet. Seems complex again, but it isn't. Your net sales you came up with earlier, giving somebody $100,000 in net sales. My gross profit is going to be making up stuff, but you would have been, it will have come up with that for you. Whatever, you're enter these things in, and the ratios are going to automatically calculate it for you. And these ratios are useful because they're really going to help you figure out whether or not your business is making profit aligned with whatever the ratio is for your industry. And so your industry average percentage for your business type is going to be based upon your NAICS code. And then you're able to figure out that information here. Okay. And these other sections are simple. Then you're just going to come up with a market score sheet that's both qualitative and quantitative. And then you're going to analyze your score sheets, and it's going to tell you whether or not you are a go for your company, whether you are a slow down, wait, do some more research for your company, or whether or not you are a don't launch your company. Do you guys have any questions?
No.
Did this help you guys at all? George, was this helpful?
Yes, it was. I took some notes.
Okay, good. So what I'm working on is saving the videos to my hard drive so that I can upload the videos to a YouTube channel that you guys can access so you can get instructions and you can stop and start it and all that sort of stuff as you need to. If you have any questions in the future about any of this, then just shoot me an email or ask me when we have these sessions. It's unfortunate that everyone isn't here, but I guess for those that are really committed to their business, then it's useful for you because then you'll get more guidance and more time for whatever specific questions you might have. All right, so if you guys don't have any more questions for me, I just want you guys to be safe and be encouraged and make sure that you contact me if you need anything, okay? See you guys later.